So we're going to talk today about buyer representation, just because, remember, it's easy to represent buyers when they feel like they have no leverage. So you're probably like, what the hell does that mean? Okay. So if there's low inventory, low interest rates, and a lot of buyers entering the market, you don't feel like you have a leverage as a buyer. So if I go on a deal and I want to see it, and Teresa's like, hey, we got to jump on this. I don't care about representation. I'm just trying to get a house. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So hang in there with me. So when you're thinking about it from a standpoint, remember, real estate is a seesaw. It's never this. It's either this way or that way. So it's either a buyer's market or a seller's market. You literally cannot have it both ways. So we had a seller's market. So the buyers were on the low end of the totem pole. They were on the low end of the seesaw. So representation was important, but it moved so fucking fast where it wasn't really something of emphasis, right? Because you were focused on, okay, I'm just trying to get deals done. I'm trying to get these offers in. I'm trying to not get beat out. Where now, because I was actually on Inman Connect, I did a session today talking about this with brokers from around the nation, and they recorded it and it'll be live in a couple of weeks, whatever. But the point is, the big thing we got to focus on right now. So if you're taking notes, this is what we got to focus on. Skill set. You have to be sharper, right? No different than a sport, right? Like if you are at a small high school, then you probably will start on the team, whether it's soccer, volleyball, football, doesn't matter. But the bigger schools, the more competition, the harder you got to train and the sharper you got to be in order to get on the field. So what's going to happen is now it's going to get very competitive for buyers. So you're probably like, what the hell is Murph talking about? Well, it's going to get very competitive because people are going to be going in open houses. People are going to be talking to all these different lenders. People are going to be searching online. We already know 95% of people start online. But remember, when the market slows down, that means inventory is not moving as fast. So you can still get listings, but what do you need now? You need what?
Buyers.
You got to have buyers in order to move the inventory. So listings will still be there. There'll still be opportunities to get listings, but now it's a shift in the mindset, and we literally need to do it now as a team and as an org. We got to shift our mindset to buyers. We got to cater to buyers better. We got to have better buyer processes. We got to have better buyer scripts. We got to be sharper in this space in order to succeed in this industry. So when I started in 2010, I had been in real estate since 2005, but I started as a real estate agent in 2010. This is what I walked into. So I know exactly what it takes. Now we just got to make it a repeatable process so that we can all reach in the bucket and do it over and over again. Everybody with me?
Yep. Question.
What you got?
Well, and you may about to hit on this, but what you said, skill sets, is it more so of understanding how to convert the buyers over to want to do business with you over the next agent? On what specific skill do you say we need to focus on?
That's where I'm headed, Barry. So what we need to focus on is the skill set. So here's some of the skill sets we're going to talk about. Then we're going to talk about conversion. One is scripts and objection handlers. Think about it like this. We've all had that doctor appointment. We've all had that, man, what's wrong with my knee? Or maybe I'm sick. And if you go get bad advice, it just creates what? More worry, more anxiety, more like, shit, man, I'm going to die tomorrow, right? But if you go to that doctor who slows you down, does the test and says you're going to be just fine, this is what's going on, right? That creates that calmness in your spirit. So we as real estate professionals, first off, in order to create calmness in people's spirit, we got to know what the fuck we're talking about. So what we need to be keeping a track on is interest rates. And I think Shelly Ann made a great quote the other day. It was a great way of taking the way I say it and adding spice to it. While we're so bent out of shape about interest rates, 7% has nothing on paying 100% interest. So if you're renting, you're paying 100% interest, right? So if you got that client who's like, well, maybe I should keep renting, and they're qualified, so interest rates are just too high for me right now. So you can pay 7% or 6%, or you can pay 100%. You tell me what's less. It's not even close. Because when you're renting, you're paying 100% interest. So we got to know that. And then we got to know, what does it cost for Terrence to rent? If he's paying $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 that he's giving away. But remember, not only is he writing that out, this is so important. So make sure you're listening. Not only am I losing that $2,000 a month with nothing to show for it, there's no real estate incentives to help me because I don't have ownership. So where if I owned it and I was paying the same note, $2,000 a month, my principal that I pay in my $2,000 is paying my note down, right? My interest that I pay is tax deductible. So anytime you're paying interest in real estate, y'all know you write off the interest, correct?
Yes.
So now you do, if you haven't heard that. So if your principal is paying down your note and the rest of your payment is interest, you're going to write that off on your taxes. Then what are you really losing? And then now you get to depreciate. So there's depreciation in the real estate that you own. And there's so many more incentives on how and why it makes sense to have ownership. So step number one, when you get into the interest conversation, you need to remind people that interest rates are just back to normal. When COVID hit and the Fed was pumping trillions of dollars into our market, we're now feeling the pain of them printing all that money. Two, they were buying the rates down. The rates were never intended to be in 2 and 3%. They were buying the rates down. So now they're not buying them down. They're actually getting them back to normal. So when I got into the industry, like buying real estate was 7%. So this is not like it's 18% or 20%. And I even know people who got into real estate development and investing, and they got in, it was 12 to 16%. So the point is the rates are normal. Stop saying they're up and they're inflated. They're normal. And then the thing is now, okay, what tax deductions do you get? What depreciation do you get? Do you get to write off your interest? Do you get to have a principal pay down and build worth through your house? Now we know to the investor type mentalities, your home is not an asset because it doesn't pay you. But at the end of the day, for most people, their home will be the biggest asset that they own, and it's an important piece to the puzzle. Next thing, inventory. Construction cost isn't going down. Inventory is still going to be a little low. It'll slow down. Our days on market will rise a little bit, but our inventory is not like we're going to look up and there's going to be a flood of homes hitting the market. So College Station, remember, we feel the burn of the whole total global market, but we never do this. We may subside a little bit and then we even out because we also don't do this either. So we're steady Eddie. That being said, now let's pivot our attention to our buyers. Any questions on objection handlers with buyers before I dive into the process? Has there been some questions that have come up that stumped you when you're talking to buyers that y'all want to cover?
My main objection was just the interest rate, but I mean, you've already answered on how to handle that situation. So
yeah, you want to handle it 2 or 3-fold. One is, like I said, and then Laura actually put it in the notes. I said it in Clubhouse the other day: marry the house, date the interest rate. So marry the house, right? Date the interest rate. What does that mean to you, Ms. or Mrs. Buyer? That just means if this is the house you want, let's get it tied up. You're going to be able to write off the interest. Your principal pay down will still be similar. And now you're not throwing away that money. So remember, that's 3-fold. Just chew on that real quick because I want y'all to really hear that. Like, I want you guys to go take $1,000 out of your account right now, and then I want you to ride down university and just let it blow out the window. You have nothing to show for that. You might as well like do something with it than just throw it out the window. Well, when you are renting, that's what you're doing. You have nothing to show for it. So that's the first thing. The money that you're writing out every month, that expense, there's no tangible asset tied to ownership. Second thing, there's no principal pay down, so you can't build any equity. There's no equity being built because you're paying rent. Third thing is your interest is tax deductible. So those are 3 things just in that space of interest rates. And then we know, like we said earlier, 7% is a lot better than 100%. So those are just 3 or 4 little scripts that you can practice, role play, and get comfortable with saying when people go to complaining and whining about interest rates.
Gotcha.
Any other questions on that?
Not so much a question, but more of a thought, because and I've been seeing some of the more production builders have been doing buyer incentives. So that's something that we can always like stay top of mind to bring value and say, hey, you know, they're actually going to help you with some of your closing costs. And of course, buyer concessions on resales are going to start becoming more and more of a thing again.
Yep. So in the beginning, you would see a couple things: buyer agent bonuses. So you'd see a 3% plus 2,500 buyer agent bonus. You would see a closing cost credit, like already up front. We're going to give you 5,000 in closing costs on resales. So those 2 things you'll start seeing a little bit more: buyer agent bonuses and closing cost credits. You know, we're going to pay you upfront home warranty. So they call it a reverse offer, where the seller kind of has the terms that entices the buyer to make the offer. So when you hear reverse offers, that's what that looks like. And we can talk about that in another day. I've actually used that strategy a couple times. So those are the things that are going to start coming back, which brings nostalgia to me, because I'm like, fuck, that's crazy. So those 3 things you'll start seeing with new builders: appliance packages, closing cost credits, same thing. So just come through the territory. Now, remember, if you get a buyer agent bonus, you have to write that in your special provisions into your contract. You need to put it on an addendum, but it needs to be in writing. I've seen some people when I was early on at Keller Williams, there were young agents like me get effed out of some buyer agent bonuses. So you got to make sure if you see that in special provisions on a new builder home or a resale, you have to write it in. It can't just be, well, they have it on MLS. Remember, what's the king of everything? Anybody know? Is it MLS descriptions? What is it? Is
Contracts.
it listing agreements? It's the contract. Thank you, Laura. So the contract. So just remember, if you see a buyer agent bonus, you have to write that in. And then that is subject to the broker splits and caps and same shit. So
No, but I was laughing back in 2017 when I was stuck on renting. That's literally the 3 things you told me. And when you said that, I was like, that was the reason I even getting my first house. I was in Arkansas, but it just was funny because that's exactly the conversation. I was stuck on rent, kind of the whole Dave Ramsey mentality, and I never thought about it from that approach. And literally, I went home and stopped renting and ended up buying a house that year, after that conversation. So I just thought it was funny because I'm like, it's the same conversation.
Bro, I say the same shit. It's 5 years later, and now you have 25 properties or 20 properties. You could have been a knucklehead and not listen, but that's the thing about me. Like I'm gonna give you information and knowledge. Henry, mute unless you're talking.
Oh, I was gonna say the truth holds the test of time. That's all.
Oh, okay. No, that's good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna stand true, like Henry said. So just gotta have the ears to hear it. That's the key. Now let's talk about. Remember, we got 3 things we always need with a buyer, right? Everybody, tell me. First thing.
IBS,
IABS.
buyer's representation.
Buyer's rep.
What's the third one?
Pre-approval.
There it is. Thank you.
Pre-approval, yes.
So every time you want to get that. Now here's where you got to reverse the conversation. So let's get right into conversion and USP. Before, why did you tell buyers they needed a pre-approval? Anybody know?
Because if we look at a house without one, by the time you get it, that house is going to be gone.
There you go. There it was. So now we got to take that same script and pivot it and say, well, why do I need a pre-approval now? It's the buyer's market. I'm in no rush. Here's the thing. You want to be able to show that you're the strongest buyer, because if everybody's thinking that way, you need to be thinking opposite. And yeah, it's not going to have 19 offers, but I'm pretty sure if we want to be strong on our negotiation, there's going to start being some aggressive offers being thrown in. And to me, you want to go in with that pre-approval. Like if a house is at 400K, it's been on the market 90 days, they've had 15 showings. If we want to go in at 375, we want to be able to show that we're strong at 375, right? Because You don't want to send in a lowball offer with no pre-approval letter. That to me makes it's like a double whammy. So now you need to just pivot that conversation and like, hey, you need to have that, because if we do see something and we want to strike and we want to be aggressive, then we need to have that pre-approval letter, because now that's going to make our offer look better. Although we know we're trying to take their, we're trying to, go get the best deal we can possibly get. So that's where you want to change that conversation. And then also, too, we're going to start seeing cascading price reductions. That means the house was listed at 450, 30 days went by, they're at 425, a couple weeks go by, they're at 415. Then before we know it, it's 399. We've been watching it this whole time. I literally just did this on a place in Conroe. It was listed at 550. Then he dropped it to 525. Then he dropped it to 499. Then he dropped it to 475. Then he dropped it to 450. Then he literally made a big drop to like 385. I'm fucking watching it like a hawk. And then he dropped it to 350. Like, soon as it hit at 349.9, I told Eric, get in the car. We got to go now. We ran down, we saw it, we made an offer, tied it up. Before we could even walk off the lot, a Tesla pulled up and another car pulled up, because people were probably watching it just like us. The only difference is I was ready to strike. We tied it up, got it under contract, boom, boom, boom. It happens quick. This dude said he got like 5 to 10 offers right after us. So people started writing backup offers and everything because it was a cascading list price. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I hate to even bring it up. NFTs, like as you're dropping it, then it hits at that right value and somebody buys it and grabs it. That's what we're going to start seeing. So if you have a buyer who's tracking like 2 or 3 houses and that first price reduction hits, the reason you need that pre-approval letter ready and on deck, or at least your banker ready to send it, because if they drop from 550 to 495 and then boom, 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 we need to run in the strike now. Boom, we got to be ready. We don't have time to wait. So it's a different sense of urgency. Like Laura said earlier, we didn't have the time because if you like it, now there's 17 offers. Now the pivot is, if you like it and it's cascading and you catch it at the right time, you don't want to miss a great opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
There is no one in the nation who is talking about what I just said, I guarantee you. Because they don't know. No one, I'm telling you, you can go watch a million YouTube videos and no one is just talking about what I just said. Catching a property as it cascades at the right time, that's why you need a pre-approval. That's why you need to be already approved. Even if we got to edit the pre-approval letter to match your offer, you just need to have it on deck and be ready. And literally, like I said, it just happened. I just did this like 2 weeks ago. So that cascading is important. And as you're going through this value, so like if you talk about rent versus own, you talk about principal pay down, you talk about depreciation, you talk about writing off your interest, and then you talk about why you need a pre-approval letter, cascading prices. That's 5 points of value that you're educating your buyer on immediately. You want to know another thing that's going to set you guys apart? The other agent they're considering working with isn't talking about that. No one's talking about cascading prices.
So do you want us to, pretty much just paraphrase and explain it to the buyer the same way you just explained it to us?
You got to customize it to the audience, right? If I have an investor, well, he's not going to see cascading prices because College Station doesn't go down in investment properties. We actually appreciate more when the market slows down because more people are moving into what? Rentals. Thank you. So more people are moving into rentals because they're not buying right now. So what is that doing for the investors in the multifamily, townhomes, duplexes? It's adding more value. It's driving the value up.
Yep.
So it's a great time to be in investment properties because you can hedge the market. It's the reason I'm always talking to y'all about different income streams. Some income streams, just like if you grew a stock portfolio, are going to do bad. They're just life. That's why you see a lot of private equity firms investing in startup companies because they know they're going to invest in 50 to 100 and 2 of them are going to be unicorns. Those other 98, not going to do well at all. But that's what they're hedging. And that's why I'm always talking to y'all about income streams. So back to the buyers. Anybody got any questions on cascading, why buyer reps matter?
No.
Right. Here's another thing. When you have so now let's talk about this. Buyer reps. Why do buyer reps matter? Because now You go from looking at your business as a listing business only to I'm looking at it as listings and I have my listing agreements, but now I'm looking at it as buyers. I got 5 buyers that I got signed up. And anytime you get a buyer's rep, you have to treat it just like a listing agreement. You have to be motivated on top of it and proactive versus passive in order to get that buyer under contract, because their inventory, just like the listing now, remember, it's units. A listing agreement is no more valuable as a unit sell than a buyer rep. Think about it. Now, you may be able to trade both sides on a listing. I give you that. It's better leverage, but when the deal is done, it's one side. So if I sell a $200,000 house on the listing side and I bring a buyer on another house at $200,000, it's still the same commission. So what I'm saying is we got to start thinking about this. This is why I'm trying to put this on your brain now. How are we managing our business from 50-50, 60-40 percentage wise? And have we set up the right system to look at? Because if I'm just tracking my listings and I'm not tracking my buyer reps, then I got to put that into my thought process. Because you may look up and you're like, man, I got 5 buyer reps. I got to get some of these people off center. And that's the important piece that I'm talking about. I'm telling y'all, I'm sitting here, I'm working on a lot of shit right now, but I'm really excited about where this market is headed. Not that I want to see it tank. I want it to do well. I just think it's going to run some people off in the industry who should not be real estate agents, because they're not thinking like we're thinking. They're not talking about these conversations. They're just not. It's too high level for them. They don't have the broker, nor the mentor, nor the research, nor the information to even be thinking like this right now. But if we can pivot and be thinking about it, we can start gaining market share. Okay, any questions on that? All right, let's get into this. So now from a conversion standpoint, y'all have the value of what's going on with the market. Then what's your value as an agent at TM5? You want to talk about repeatable processes. That's simple and easy. We have a team set up. This is a Henry Ford model. I'm here for you, but guess what? The moment I can't get to you, I got 7 to 10 people on my team that can run over here and take care of you if they need to. If I'm out of town or whatever, we're going to make sure we take care of you. I have transaction coordinators that are going to make sure that your file is staying on top of it. Because the one thing we do not want to do in this market is not fucking close on time. Because now we had your rate locked in for this many days. And if we have a transaction coordinator who doesn't know what they're doing, staying on top of their appraisal, talking to the title company, and now we got to extend, then we lose that rate. That's why people are going to start talking about rate buy downs. That means if I get quoted a 7% interest rate, but for 1 point, I pay $3,500 and I can buy my rate down to 6.25%, right? That's locked in. That's a commitment I'm making. If I get outside of that window of the buy down rate, then that shit resets. So having a team versus working with one individual agent is so important, because I have a team behind me of agents, transaction coordinators, service staff, mentor, broker, whatever, that we can make sure we get you taken care of. Is so important. You have to close on time right now. You miss that window and rates could jump a 0.5 point. That changes your whole principal and interest payment. So that's important. And then you want them to know binding me to you on a buyer rep. So let's talk about conversion. I convert in 2 ways. If it's an investor, I talk about my pocket listings, my experience, my blah, blah, blah. This isn't a USP training. This is about converting buyers. You guys need to have a USP. I gave you some tools. Y'all go work on that. But I do it 2 ways. You reach out to me. I call immediately. I get into some of those topics we talked about. And I try to get what first? By no? F2, F?
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face. Does face-to-face need to be in person?
No.
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 Didn't have to, no.
I'm looking at you beautiful people right now. It's the same thing. We're talking. This is a face-to-face. So if you can't meet, I can't get to your office. Cool. Let's jump on a Google Meet. Let's jump on a FaceTime. Let's have coffee. Hey, I'll meet you at the property, but I'll send the buyer rep ahead of time. Whatever it is, F to F. Because the faster you can get in front of someone and make that personal connection is the higher your conversion rates are going to be. And you need to be thinking uniquely. Like, how do I create value for Terrence? Like he wants to be a first-time investor or he's a first-time home buyer. It's fairly simple, guys. You can Google a million articles. You can go find podcasts. Hell, you can find YouTube videos, rent versus buy, and say, you know what, Terrence, I was thinking about you the other day. I put together a Google Drive of like 5 videos, 3 articles, and a couple of links that I just wanted you to read about buying your first investment or your first home. That's a creative touch over and beyond. I'm telling you, this is why I dominated this industry, because I didn't do the basics. And I always say, okay, how do I add value to this person that's a different touch than they've seen before? But if I just send the same BS, I'm telling you, in this market we're going into, all the little things matter now. Like the way I phrase stuff, how many times I follow up, am I consistent in my follow up? If I say I'm gonna get Jabari something by today at 5 and 5 hits and I don't send it, there needs to be an update. Hey Jabari, I'm not gonna be able to get that to you today at 5, but you'll have it in the morning by 10 a.m. Period. All that little shit that we've been just blowing past because we've been busy selling tens of millions and hundreds of millions of real estate, it's not gonna work anymore. Because then that buyer is gonna be like, well, man, if he can't even tell me what he was gonna send me on today at 5, then I got this other lady that's following up, sending me articles, sending me lenders, saying she can schedule a bill consultation with a builder that I hadn't even met yet. Like that kind of service is going to be back into the fold. And then you just got to decide within that, do I want to work with first-time home buyers? Do I want to work with investors? Do I want to work with ranch people? Like now it's going to be important again. Ranch people want to pull up and you have a ranger sitting there with water and all that shit in there. It's like, man, that's over the top. Bro, that's how I built my business. Like I literally would have a ranger sitting there gassed up, water towels, it's this almost concierge, like extra added value of service that you got to bring back into your conversation as a professional. So 2 things. I try to get a face-to-face and I just do this. I'm talking through it right now and I say, hey, Viet, now that we went through all your questions, I'm going to follow up with an email with 3 lenders that we talked about, and then I'm going to send you a buyer's representation agreement via DocuSign. I go over it real quick, my scripts. I'm not going to do it now. If y'all want me to, we can. And then I DocuSign it to them, and I said, if you have any questions, just call me. But, once you sign that, then we're good to go. That's one way I do it. The other one is I pull up on Google Meet or I meet them in the office, and I screen share my buyer representation agreement. And I just go through it real quick. Here's an IBS form. Here's a buyer's rep. And we know, trifecta. I only need to get one more thing done. Once I go over IBS form with him and get him to DocuSign it and a buyer's rep, is getting him pre-approved. And I just locked in a unit sale. Now it's on me to go find him the right property. So I do it in person via screen share now, because I used to have them on clipboards and shit. But I don't print anything anymore. Or I send it to them via DocuSign, tell them to read it. If they got questions, call me, we can go over it. But I'm getting that buyer's rep signed either way. Now I need y'all's feedback. Give me some questions so I can make this, for what y'all need. I've been doing a lot of talking.
I think one thing that you talked about last week too, that's just good to keep in mind, is for those clients that are like, I don't really want to sign anything. We're just started looking. We're not really ready to commit, to just have them sign. Okay, we're going to go look this weekend. The buyer's rep is going to be good from Friday to Sunday. So that way, like, we're all protected still.
I think the biggest thing is we got to stop making stuff optional. I think with ourselves, like, it's not fucking optional. Like, I'm going to do this boxing workout today. As much as I don't want to do it, my neck's hurting. Fuck it. I'm going though. Right? We got to stop making stuff optional. And so, like, that's why anything that I try to do in life, I just say, I'm doing it. Like, there's nothing else to talk about. And so with my business, I run my business in a similar fashion. Now, I'm not aggressive, and I don't want anybody to work with me who doesn't want to work with me. And I don't want anybody a part of anything that I'm doing who doesn't want to be a part of it. Cool. There's somebody else in line waiting on your turn. No hard feelings. But if I'm going to give you my time, remember this. Like right now, y'all are all in here giving your time to get better. Anytime you give something from yourself, you expect a return. Just like me. I'm here giving y'all my time. I could be on the phone with 1 million people around the world. but I'm devoted. I'm all in to investing into my team because I want to see y'all get better and grow and get more conversions. I want to see you win. So just remember, if you give your time to something, it's okay to expect a return. Don't go plant a seed and not think you're going to get a harvest. Like, I'm not here for my health. Like, I'm here working a 1099 commission only job in order to get paid. So be okay with saying like, hey, I understand if there's any questions you need to ask me so that you get comfortable with us working together, then let's dive into it. But and make me the bad guy. I mean, the industry's already set it up this way. Like, you're a sub agent if you don't have a buyer's rep. And explain what a sub agent is. Literally, I used to pull out the meaning of sub agent. It's literally on there, sub agent. And I'm like, listen, Henry, if we don't sign a buyer's rep, then you're not buying it to me and I'm not buying it to you. I'm actually working for the seller and the listing agent as a sub agent. That's not my rule. That's a Texas Real Estate Commission rule. So what does that mean? What does sub agency mean? That means since we don't have a representation agreement, your fiduciary duties, I'm supposed to be fair and truthful, but I don't represent your best interest because I don't have a signed agreement. That means I can't tell you days on market. I can't tell you how many times it's been terminated or off and on the market. I can't tell you if they got any other offers because I'm a sub agent, which legally that means I work. When I go out and show you this property, I work for the other agency. I work for the seller. Well, man, when you explain that, and then you explain to them, like, I've never in my whole career asked the buyer to pay my commission. So the listing side and the seller pay the commission. So I'm not working for free, but you're not having to front that cost. And there are some agents who charge a fee up front for buyer representation and charge some type of consultation fee. We on the Team 5 team don't charge that.
Has there ever been a situation where you had someone that their objection was they don't want to work with only you? They want to leave their options open?
Yep. So Henry just responded and said he doesn't only want to work with me. And my response is, you can work with a lot of agents. Go find a neighborhood where there's 5 listings on that same street. Call each and every one of us, and people probably will show up and open your door. But once again, no one has your best interest at heart. Not one of us. Because you haven't committed. And we know the word commitment means in any relationship, let's just talk about it. Like, I'm committed to raising my kids. I'm committed to my wife. There's a commitment. So when you commit to something, you get more value versus giving it a portion of who you are. So Henry, my goal for you today is to understand my value as a real estate agent, a real estate broker. I want to identify any pain points you feel, any concerns that you have, and I want to show you why I'm the agent to do the job. Not only do I have the track record to do it, I have the knowledge to do it, I have the brand to do it, I have the team behind me to do it, and I have the process. So whatever you're feeling on why you don't want to be assigned to an agent may be a misnomer. So I'm open to having that conversation. Let's talk about it. And so then Henry says, well, I just heard that if you sign with one agent, you're stuck with them for 9 months. No, actually, we could do a 30-day buyer representation agreement. We can do 2 weeks. We can do 90 days. But I'm not trying to bind you into something you don't want to be a part of. I'm not in the business of forcing anybody to work with me. What I am in the business of is protecting my time. And if I'm going to go show you properties, I'm not going to be a sub-agent. I'm going to get compensated for my time if you decide to buy this property. I'm not going to be a sub-agent. So I would love to show it to you. I'd love to show you my value. I'd love to solve your pain points. I'd love to walk you through this process like I've done 6,000 times. But the goal is for you to see my value today. And look, if we need to sign a 7-day buyer representation agreement where we both do a test run with each other, I'm okay with that because I'm fairly confident after you work with me this weekend, you'll see my value, not just open the doors because anybody can do that, but how I talk about the comps, how I talk about negotiation, how we talk about the process. And I think after that, you'll be willing to sign a 30-day, 90-day buyer representation agreement.
No, that's good. That's good. Actually, I'm taking notes, but no, man, I I wish I would have had this script prior, because I mean, I haven't had a lot of objections, but for the ones I have had, this entire script would have pretty much nipped that in the bud. So appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to be protected for my time. Anytime I'm saying yes to something, I'm saying no to myself and I'm saying no to my family. And I don't mind making that commitment. Like, I'm a grinder. I will get out here and bust my ass for you as your agent. But I can't be doing that on the whim, and I can't be doing that on I don't know if I'm gonna work with you or not. If I show you a property, I want to represent you. It's that simple. So if we need to on the buyer's rep, we're going to see 7 houses this weekend. We need to do a 10-day agreement or a 15-day agreement, but put those specific properties on the buyer rep. I'm okay with that. Most of my buyer reps are by the county or by the city. But if we need to do specific properties, I'm okay with that. Because like I said, I know my value. And I only want to be paid for work I do. I don't ever want to be paid for work I didn't do. Period. And so, like, I've never had issues with buyers. When I just speak to them like I'm talking to y'all and hitting those objection handlers, but let's keep going. I got 15 more minutes to dive into any more objection handlers like that to give you scripts.
Can we go over a little more in detail, like, especially with the pre-approval letters, when we have maybe like first-time home buyers who just started looking and don't want to pull their credit because they don't really know when they're going to find something, especially with low inventory, and kind of how you handle that?
Yeah, so if you come to me and you say, hey, our lease is up until January, we're just early in the market. So, okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll start sending you some articles. I'll start getting you some information. I'll get you with a couple of lenders. They can do a soft pull, but if you don't want it pulled at all, because that pre-approval may time out at some point, then let's go ahead and get the process going. I'll specifically tell Jabari or Audrey or Viet, my 3 preferred lenders. And I would say what you need to do is just do an interview with all 3 of them. Find one you like. You may like Viet's personality over Jabari's. Great. And then just tell them, just get us a range. Hey, based on your debt to income ratio, based on your W-2, blah, 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 I would say you can be approved in this range. I get mortgage people to do that all the time. So if you want to hold off and not, get your credit pulled and do any of that yet. But to me, that still doesn't change the fact that ABS, buyer's rep, and I need to know some type of price point that you can afford. And I want to hear that from a professional, not you. Unless you're in finance. Like I've had people come to me that are in finance and they're like, well, this is what I can afford. And when they do get a pre-approval, it's to the penny, because that's what they do all day, every day.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's what I always fall back on, is you might think you know what you want to spend and you might think that you know what you can afford, but until you really talk to a lender, you might not like the mortgage on a $350,000 house. So, but yeah.
And the good thing is now we all have apps, right? So y'all got that little app from University Title. You can always just pull that up, plug in the numbers. It spits out the buyer numbers in like 30 seconds. And then it spits out seller net sheets in 30 seconds. And you can just share that with them. Hey, I ran 3 scenarios, 350, 385, and 450. You told me those were the ranges. I sent you 3 scenarios as PDFs. You guys should have your headshot on there and the logo and all that. You send it to them. They think you went and did all this fancy stuff, which you did. You took your time. You send it to them and say, what do you think about those 3 scenarios? Based on where interest rates are at, is that where you want to be? Well, actually, I can spend a little more. Okay, great. Let's take our price point up.
Question I have is, so like, how do you handle that buyer's rep as far as the lengthwise when you're dealing with someone who's wanting to build a house? And generally, the building phase can be 6 months to a year. I guess how would you handle it? Because I guess I never really understand how to do it, but I have someone who's about to get a pre-approval. And from my understanding, I mean, they can get the pre-approval, but they can only use that for, I guess, 3 months. And then the buyer's rep needs to be for, I guess, just the time they close on the construction loan, correct?
Yeah, I mean, It depends on if the builder's carrying the loan or not. If they're doing it in themselves, then that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, just do a 6 month, 9 month. Just ask the builder how long they think they're going to take. Because you can always extend buyer reps, right? It's not like if I get a 90-day buyer rep and we're under contract and the builder takes 6 months, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not extending that. We're under contract. You know what I mean? So like for me, if I get a buyer's rep, I anticipate in 30 to 45 days having them off my books. If we get past that 2 month mark and I'm still running around, then that, I got to figure something out. That means I'm not doing my job. But really my sweet spot has always been under 30 days.
Gotcha. So it's no use of getting a buyer's rep for someone who's obviously months out before they can get something.
You're mixing the conversation. You always want to get a buyer's rep. You overcomplicate it, Jabari. Why would I go meet with Murphy Signature Homes and run around with Pulte Homes and XYZ Builder and do all that work with no buyer's representation agreement? It doesn't matter how long they're out. It's the fact that I'm protecting my time. I can always extend it. It's the same thing as a listing agreement. It doesn't matter how long the house takes. It's, am I going to go do all that work, walk through CMAs, take photos, spend money, open houses with no listing agreement? No. So if I need to extend that 6 month listing agreement, then at least I have something to protect my first 6 months. But I'm not going to do anything without something in writing.
We good. I just had a flaw in my thinking. So you corrected it. We good.
No, for sure. And then you'll realize like sometimes your buyers will be out looking with other agents and doing other shit. And when it all comes to a head, they got to call you back because I protected my time and my professional time with that agreement. Y'all need to go back and watch this and listen to this. I need to post this on the org so they can get it too, because I'm telling you, this is so important, man. And anybody, no one in this room was with me early on, but anybody that was with me early on or knew that market, they would be literally in here clapping and putting thumbs up because they know.
I mean, just on those conversion tactics, I think you explained it pretty well. For me, mostly it's investors, and then you and Laura talked about how the first-time home buyers are always hesitant to sign that or even get a pre-approval, and then you guys explained that as well. So those were the two main factors. Yeah, because investors are pretty easy. I mean, if they've used you before, they're going to keep using you if you do a good job. So normally it's going to be the first-time home buyers now that are going to be a sticking point.
And first-time home buyers do what? Anybody know what they do on average after 3 years? They trade up.
Yep.
So a lot of my repeat business that I've been passing to you guys are all my first. Those are a lot of my clients that I'm just sending to y'all because I haven't been selling in 9 months. So I mean, I've just gotten completely out of the game. I haven't sold anything. So I think I sold 15 million in the first quarter, and then I've just been working on all this other stuff. But the point is, when I send y'all that stuff through the back end or through Rael, or I tell them to call the team phone, because a lot of them I just tell them to call the team phone. It's a lot of repeat business. And I've been proud of y'all because they haven't called me pissed off because it's like, well, I didn't get you this time and I had to deal with this person in Rael. Like, they've actually been, I haven't got a lot of those. I used to get a lot of that at TM5 when I started the brokerage because I was trying to scale and I was giving the business to other people. I get so many emails, people pissed off that they didn't work with me. So I haven't been getting a lot of that. So that means y'all are doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I personally already got 3 that were my first-time home buyers when I first started, and they sold their house and upgraded, and they're moving town. So, and then I've definitely got some of Terrence's first-time home buyers as well that just called the team phone. Like, yeah, we called Terrence because he sold us our first house and we're upgrading. So, I mean, I've definitely got leads just from that way.
The cool thing is we've done so much volume with people that were not my classmates. My classmates, and all I've said this 10 years ago, my classmates will start moving back at about 2025. So I've been eating hearts in this market without my classmates. So when my classmates start moving back, it's a wrap. They're only going to know TM5 and Terrence Murphy. It is what it is. So we've been doing really well with people that are not my classmates, but on average, based on the statistics of A&M alumni, they start moving back right in that 40 to 45 range. Because they went off to Houston, they went to Dallas, they went to San Antonio, they made their money or they've done what they need to do, and now they want to come back to College Station and raise their family. So we're finna start seeing a lot of those transplants or Aggie graduates move back to town. Because I just remember when I was like 25, 26, all my clients that were moving back, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, entrepreneurs, they were all in that range. So I've been tracking this now for about 12 years.
Only one question I do have is, does Texas have any law in the contract? Well, let me preface this. Arkansas has a law saying basically you need to be pre-approved before you put an offer in. Does Texas have anything like that as well?
Nope.
Okay.
And then, but the recession proof tomorrow is those HUD homes and those REOs. Like telling y'all, I think that's I'm already making calls to banks in Texas, some of the biggest banks in Texas, and I'm trying to get on their list as a preferred vendor for REO accounts. That means when they're trying to get this shit off their books, they call us to trade it out, and we pay, and they pay us the commissions. If y'all want to do any research right now for a new lead gen strategy, that's what y'all need to focus your energy on.
I think Clay, he's out of El Paso. I reached out to him because he was known for that. So that I'm glad that you brought that up.
Clay Ellis?
Yes.
I think he's in Del Rio, but yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Del Rio.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to spend some time on this. So that's why I want to go to this tomorrow and then just digest it. And I think we need to spend some time on figuring out a strategy, because I think we can eat off of this like big time.